Hey, Jared.
Yes.
What's the difference between a casino and a relationship?
I feel like this is going to be a good one from that setup.
Well, don't be disappointed when it's cut
okay.
out.
Casino and relationship. I don't know. They both
What's the difference?
I would say the only thing I think is they both spend your money. I don't know.
No, well, yes, but that might be true. But no, the difference is eventually the casino lets you leave with your dignity.
Oh, wow, yeah, nice. That was good.
Hey, welcome back to Screen Time Film, a podcast where we take a director's filmography and go chronological order. We are starting a new one today, or a new person. PTA or P.T. Anderson, Paul Thomas Anderson, however you want to say it. People say it all three ways.
They do, yeah.
But so we're kicking his off here for next 2 months or something, roughly 3 months. I don't know how many films there are.
There's 9. The One Battle After Another is his 10th, which is
later in this fall.
Yeah, we'll have a gap between.
So a little about 2 months then. Yeah. So anyway, so we're kicking it off with Hard 8. So Jared, if I were to give you $50, what would you do with it?
Good question. Oh, what does he say? Oh, I would eat. I forget what he says after that.
I get a meal or something.
Yeah. Probably eat. Yeah, probably the same answer. Yeah. Probably eat.
All right. So my name's Josh, if you are a new listener, and this is my co-host, Jared.
Yeah, we might have new listeners.
Mm-hmm.
PTA, all the
Watchers.
PTA fans out there. Yeah. Josh, I don't do anything that I don't want to do. You understand?
It's a good motto to live by.
Yeah.
All right.
I gotta say up top that Phil Baker Hall is amazing in general, but he's great in this.
Yes. 100% agree. I don't think we have any feedback.
No.
So we'll just roll right into this. 1996. Rated R, an hour and 41 minutes. 2 low-level astronaut. Nope. I forgot to pull the. Let me just pull it up really quick. Man, somehow I forgot to pull the.
It's all right. Synopsis. It's probably synopsis something like.
All right, we'll hear it in a second here.
I don't know. It's mainly a casino movie about 2 guys.
Yeah,
where's 2 strangers?
Short synopsis. Yeah, it's weird. I always pull this up on the website to put it. Here it is. It's just so short. A stranger mentors a young, troubled Reno gambler.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much all you need to say. That's pretty much the setup.
So and we've got directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, written by Paul Thomas Anderson. Cinematographer Robert Elswit, which does a bunch of his films, if not all of them.
Very impressive work.
But also, he did Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, kind of relevant since Mission Impossible recently. Nightcrawler, and then the TV series Ripley on Netflix.
Oh yeah, I did have that down. Yeah. I had The Bourne Legacy in here too.
Yep, that was on there too. Yeah.
The Town, which is a great movie. An 8mm, which is a movie that a lot of people don't like, but I have a soft spot for it. Nicolas Cage movie. Very dark movie, but it's good. I don't remember the cinematography in it though. Michael Clayton. I don't know if you mentioned that.
I did not.
But that is a great movie. Shot very well also. But yeah, I think he is. Yeah, we'll probably talk about him a lot. I think he is on pretty much all of his movies, like you said.
Yeah. I didn't like cross-reference them all just to confirm every
Seems
single
like
one, but
a
it was
lot
close.
of
It has to be close to all if it's not all.
Yeah.
All right. Then we got composers, John Bryan and Michael Penn.
Yep.
Production costs.
We just talked about John Bryan.
I know.
Yeah. Production costs. This is tricky. First movie, mid '90s.
Yeah. It's
So
definitely shot on film though. You could tell.
Yeah.
That. Yeah.
Man, yeah, the look of this movie was really great. Yeah, I don't. He probably didn't have much to work with, but I don't know. I'm gonna go 5 million.
3.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good.
Mm-hmm. All right. No Oscar noms or wins. But I'm sure that'll change after.
Oh yeah, yeah. Honestly, I don't know if he's ever won though,
Okay.
but
Okay.
maybe he has.
Yeah.
But for sure nominated.
Yeah. We got small cast, but we got Philip Baker Hall, who you mentioned already, and then John C. Reilly, Gwyneth Paltrow, Samuel L. Jackson, and Philip Seymour Hoffman
Oh yeah,
with a little cameo.
Yeah.
Small role.
and he will be a staple in his movies.
Yeah. All those get,
Yeah.
and at least some
Yeah.
of them. Yeah. I mean, not in every movie, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Overall thoughts. Because you hadn't seen this movie either, right?
No, I thought I did, but I haven't. This was first time.
Yeah, it was the first time for me too.
Cool. You want me to go
Yeah,
first?
go for it.
Okay. Well, I kind of mentioned. Well, I don't know. Were we rolling yet when I said that? But very character focused, which I like.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of his movies, I think, tend to be that way. And has like a cool flow to it. I don't really know how to explain it further, but and I think it's a really solid, especially filmmaking debut from him. Yeah, I really liked it.
Yeah, I like this movie as well. I put it was simple and a little slow, but very character driven, and the characters were interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then I put Philip Baker Hall and Gwyneth Paltrow are really great, and kind of like I hadn't seen either of them in anything in a while personally, and then just like seeing them again, I was like, oh yeah, he's good. And then like her, I was like, even if this is kind of early in her career, it was like, oh yeah, I remember liking her as an actress before.
Yeah,
I feel like present day she's just a little weird and stuff with things, but
she is now. Yeah.
But and I think John C. Reilly did okay. I think he's the weakest part here. And
I agree. It definitely has to do with this character also, though. Like, I think he's purposely has to play him that way. But yeah, he was.
Yeah,
it's also not what we're used to seeing him as.
No.
Sam Jackson is always.
Yeah, he's always great.
Always great.
Yep. All right, well, let's get into some of the story. So let's talk a little bit about the first scene, which is basically just the setup where
At the diner.
Sydney meets John.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know if you saw, but this movie was originally called Sydney, which is interesting.
I did see that.
Which is a good name also for the movie, but Hard Eight makes sense with the casino and all that. But yeah. So it was interesting.
Yes. What you think of this opening scene?
I think it's a great setup for it. I have a note. I think. Let me see. Yeah. So overall in this, the way the dialogue is, and the conversations, and sometimes it's like just like normal mundane small talk. Not always, but feels very like real life, and seems like definitely PTA takes inspiration from Tarantino's a lot, like from the dialogue especially. Like I noticed that even in this first movie, and definitely in his other movies too. But I didn't really. He's mentioned obviously Kubrick, which pretty much everyone's inspired by Kubrick, which I didn't see that as much in this one,
Right.
for sure, and some of his others. But and then Scorsese's the other one that I could see in this with the casino stuff, obviously for sure. Which is like, I mean, that's three really great people to, you know, take inspiration from. But I think specifically, I think the closest thing is Tarantino, especially with the dialogue. It reminded me a lot of that, which I love. I love Tarantino's dialogue. And you can see that right away. I mean, even the setting, the diner, that's very iconic to Tarantino as well. But even the scene, I think right after it, when they're in the car and they're just like randomly talking about like cigarettes and other stuff, and it's like that kind of thing. It really feels like Tarantino also to me, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And it keeps it interesting because it could very easily be boring, but he makes it interesting. So yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I think yeah, I mean a lot of it comes down to the dialogue and writing and that, and
Yeah.
that allows these scenes to kind of be paced the way they are and still be interesting because
Well, like you said, I mean, it's kind of slow to start, but it still was interesting. Yeah.
I think the way the intro, well, so I mean, him just like leaning there against the it was a little weird because it's like a long walk up shot, and John is just like hunched over against the.
Just sitting
It
down.
felt a little unnatural for someone just to be sitting there, like he wasn't even moving. He was just like,
outside the diner, he's just sitting down. Yeah,
But,
by the door.
but after that, like once they kind of got up and he went in, and then they had them talking. You know, immediately makes this guy Sidney interesting because you're like, what is his deal? Why does he care? You know, like you're like, why is he doing this? Like, and you're like, is he just a nice guy? Like, what is he doing? Like, and you just gotta have ulterior motive, right? Like, and which is, you know, what John thinks too, but he kind of starts to go along with it. He's like, all right, I'll bite. You know,
It's very real life, like I mentioned, but also it's a great way to start the movie, but pretty much through, man, most of the movie, you're constantly asking yourself, like, why is Sidney doing this? And you're like, what is his motivations for this?
and
that's a through line through most of the movie.
Yeah. So what? I say the question would be, at what point did you ever get comfortable with him, or did, like kind of start to trust Sidney as a viewer, or not?
Not completely, no.
Okay.
Because well, I guess with human nature in general, it's like, I mean, and unfortunately, you know, it can be this way a lot where it's like, if someone does all this to a stranger, it's like, there's got to be an ulterior motive. You know, it's like, this is not just a good Samaritan. And that happens though, which is great when it does, but definitely is something that I was all like thinking about the whole time. Like, what is his motivation? And obviously when we get to it way later, like it's very good reveal, and makes a lot of sense for why he's doing it. But
yeah. So
I'll just say with my other note, just to mention, because we kind of already talked about the characters, and I'll talk about some of the supporting cast also, but I just want to mention again, Sidney, Philip Baker Hall, is so good in this. He's such a great actor anyway, and we'll see him again in at least one other film of his, I think. But I love his, I don't know how to explain it, his presence, I guess, in the movie, and how direct he always is. even though he does have other motivations, but he's always direct and like to the point. He kind of does that with a lot of his characters he plays. Because then I wanted to mention, I cannot think of him as, but to go back to Seinfeld again, as Bookman, which is such a good episode. And it's also the episode, so he plays Phil Baker Hall, like on the Seinfeld episode, like the lieutenant for the library. And his name is Bookman, which Kramer even said, he's like, wait, he's like, that's amazing. His name is Bookman. And then, and he's also very similar in that, like very serious and like, and it's such a good scene. It's also, I think, out of the whole show, it is the scene where you see Jerry Seinfeld laugh the most with that, like trying not to laugh. And I don't know how many takes they did of it, but he's still like, he can't.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I'm sure he has a lot of respect for the actor, and he's just like, and they're probably happy that they even got him for this. But anyway, I always have that in mind with this guy because it's just such a great character. And he comes in, and he's only in it for like one scene pretty much, but he's just like, it's amazing.
Yeah. Yes. Talking about overdue looks and
yeah. And he's like, he plays it like it's like an old school like detective, even the way he talks in it is so good. And he's so serious about it, even though it's just a overdue library book. It's amazing.
Yeah, that is a.
I was going to ask you if you remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. Yeah, that's a great episode. But so yeah, I think it's a great setup scene.
Yeah.
I think it works great. And kind of gets us going on our characters. And then the next kind of part to the film is the teaching the con, like teaching him how to
at the casino. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I'm not when I was watching, I was like, wait, so why did it work? I don't know. Like, did it make sense to you? Like, what was happening?
No, not really.
Somehow he kept getting more money, and then like, how can you?
I don't know. I mean, they go into it some, but it was unclear.
Yeah.
What all he was doing, and why it was working.
Okay, it was because it's like he was getting. When he first took the 150,
I mean, he had a plan. Like
he took the $150 and got $1 chips. And then he used about $20 in those in the slot machines, and then he went and cashed out 100 of the chips, for a $100 bill. And then he went back to the guy, and he got the rate card, which I don't know what a rate card is, so I don't know.
Me either.
But and then asked him for. So I don't know if it's like, I don't know. It wasn't quite tracking that. I mean, they made it look like it worked, but
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how true to real life, like if you could actually do this at a casino or not. I don't know. And it actually worked, but
I'm sure it wouldn't at this point, even if it was something.
Sure, yeah. I mean, this is. Yeah.
But I was just like trying to understand even logically how it was working in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
Even if it would work in real life or not. But
it was a cool scene though, and obviously the way it's shot and cut around a lot to him going through it and Sydney walking him through it. It was a cool scene.
So it definitely starts to set up like, a little bit more trust between these two people, which means like, because then he's just like, okay, see you later. And then he shows up, but then shows up at the hotel room and then he thanks them, and then he's like, yeah, just hope you do the same for me sometime, which then I'm like, oh, there it is. He's going to come back to need him to do something. Like that was what I was thinking, which is not what happens, but
no.
And then of course he's got to bury.
Well, it also makes it like you really think also like why, kind of further questioning Sydney in general, like, how does he even know how to do all this too? And he's so confident about it and knows like, oh yeah, you can make money doing this. if you do it this specific way. Which we get a little more into that later, like he's been around, but I don't think we ever fully get that aspect to like how he learned how to do all this.
So no, we don't.
Yeah. We just know he's been around for.
Didn't he say in the beginning he'd bury his mother?
I don't know.
I feel like that's what he said, but then of course it makes more sense if you have to bury his father.
Yeah.
But I feel like he said his mother in the beginning. But anyway, either way.
I think he does. You're right. Yeah.
But yeah, so he's like, oh, well, we can work something out. I got a friend or whatever.
Yeah.
Go to LA. It's crazy. It's like in this film, they jump back and forth from East Coast to West
Yeah.
Coast, a couple, kind of easily.
Mm-hmm.
But
I wanted to also, since around this time is when we get introduced to our other kind of supporting cast, and I want to talk about them a little bit. You already mentioned Gwyneth Paltrow, which is Clementine.
well, so
And she's great. Are you going to go to that?
Well, no, like I said, after this, then there's a year jump.
Oh, that's right. There is
It's like 1 year
there's
later,
a
2
gap.
years later, something like that. And then we meet. We see them.
Yeah,
in
she
this,
comes up to him. He's in there.
just playing Keno.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's just sitting there at the table.
But I wanted to talk about her and Jimmy, which is Samuel L. Jackson. The way they introduce both of them, Clementine and Jimmy, I think is done really well. And obviously both of these characters are interesting anyway. And both of these actors are really great too. But I just thought the way they introduced them was really, really well done. Because Jimmy's right after this, he comes up, right?
Yeah, first Clementine, because
Yep.
because we don't even know that John's there. We don't see him right away. And then kind of get this interaction, which they were, but like just like his interaction with John, so up in the earlier scenes, he starts to become like, you assume, like a mentor to him kind of thing. You know, just the way he is a little, let's say, protective, I guess, of her, right? Like when they had the, he's like, do you feel like you have to, do they make you flirt with that table over there? Like he's like, but like also you're kind of like, does he like her and wasn't want her, you know, you're like kind of confused a little bit. Like, you're like, is he trying to, which is what she thinks too later.
True. Yeah. They do a good job with to where you're not sure, like, is he being like more of a father towards her or just another guy? Yeah. It's interesting. Yeah. It's a cool dynamic.
Yeah. And he's like, you want to think he's just trying, kind of being like, yeah, protective, kind of little father figure, but
you can tell right away though, whatever his intention is though, like you can tell right away that he cares about her though, for sure.
One way or another. And like, already obviously knows her already. Like, he's been coming there for a little while. People, and she has the nickname for him, Captain.
Yeah. I also like later where he's like, when John calls him that, he's like, yeah, no. He's like, don't call me that. He's like, that's for her.
Yeah.
That's for her only.
Yeah. So, but yeah, again, like I said earlier, like I was really just like, oh, I forgot how much I like Gwyneth Paltrow as an actress. And like I said, been a while since seen her. The, especially like as the kind of scenes went on, like that intro scene, like it was maybe not the strongest of her performances in this film. Like it was like a little, but then after that, like I was like, you know, she came through.
Especially when the hotel room later, for sure.
We'll say it's a little harder to buy her and John's relationship, to be honest. Like I feel like and I think this is more John C. Reilly as an actor. And maybe, you know, if you guys know, but I'm trying to think, like, is there a other more dramatic role that he's done that's really good?
Yeah, there's been others.
Okay.
I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I know one of the most recent things was he's the lead in Winning Time, which we just talked about.
TV show. Yeah. Lemon series.
And he has comedic moments in it, but also like he's really great in that, and it is more serious. But yeah, there's been other. I think even with PTA, I think he might be in Magnolia or something else.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
I just like I hadn't thought like watching this. Like I said, like he felt like the weakest part of this.
I agree. Yeah.
And then on their scenes where there's supposed to be something there, it just doesn't feel like there's something there. Like I said, like
no, their chemistry
not
was
there.
not,
And
no.
like she's got more chemistry with Sydney, or
Yeah.
and even though he's just trying to be like a father figure to her, really.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's just
No, but I think, and I can't think of the right word to describe John's character in this, but I think he has to play in that way. But I mean, it could partially be, maybe not his greatest performance, John C. Reilly, but also I think he had to play in this way with the type of character he is. Like he's very timid and really just like a boy still. Like he acts like he's just like I don't know how old he's supposed to be in this. I don't think they ever say, but yeah, he kind of comes off that way. So I think it's partially he's meant to be that way in this movie.
all right. And then you're talking about Jimmy's, being revealed.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of also shows us a little bit more about Sydney as well, and John. Like John, like you were talking about, he's easily influenced. The best way to put it, like, which can be a good thing if you have a good mentor, like Sydney, and then
he could be taken advantage of.
Yeah,
very easily. Yeah,
by a scumbag like Jimmy.
Yeah. Man, he plays it so well though. It's funny, like also impressive, like you said, 3 million, because this is after Pulp Fiction. So Samuel L. Jackson is,
well, how far after? Can't be that much after.
I mean, I think Pulp Fiction was 94, 93. So this could have been the next movie he did.
Yeah.
Right after.
Yeah. If it's
like that, really
it's a bigger gap, but like you start getting to 94 or 95, like, like it could be, this one could have, he could have signed the deal for this one before the other one was even out, to like be cast in it and have the contract and stuff before. Yeah. So that could have had something to do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, the biggest thing next is kind of the hotel room.
Mm-hmm.
Because like,
this is where Gwyneth Paltrow
really
shines. I think, yeah.
But even at later, like when he takes like,
oh yeah,
when they're like, because there's the small scene with her and Sydney in the diner. And it's like once there, it was just that first intro that was like felt a little rough on her part, like in the I guess it was casino, wherever he was with playing Keno. But then not like terrible, but it was just like I was like, okay. And there was one of the scenes where I was like, oh well, this is earlier in her career. It didn't feel like, but then there was some of those other scenes, like the diner was good, and then even with them in the hotel room, and she's just like, what, and he's like, what is that what you think? Like you want to screw me? And she's like, and he's like, is that what you think? And like, don't always think that, like, just,
that interaction was really good.
It was good. And then, she he's like, no, this is a good place for you to sleep. Here's some, and then of course he's like, tells John to take her shopping and blah, 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 and like help her out. And so then he goes and plays, that's when we get, he goes and plays, because we get the Hard Eight a couple times.
Yes.
But he goes play with, what's his name? Yeah. No.
Philip Seymour
Hoffman, who that character, he's so great in that.
He's, I mean, well,
just a small role, but like,
one scene, but just like kills it. Yeah, he's and it sucks that he passed away. What,
Too
over
soon.
a decade ago? Yeah, like I mean, he still did a decent amount of films, which is good, but he is definitely one of our best actors of that time. Like he's even, I mean, this is a while ago now, but even we saw him in The Big Lebowski when we covered that,
Right.
and like he can just do any type of role because he's so different in that. He's so different in everything he does. We'll see him also in Boogie Nights next too,
Yeah.
and it also again very different. But he's just he's just amazing in everything. But it's like also awesome for PTA to get not only him, which I don't know how famous he was at this time, but Samuel L. Jackson, Philip Baker Hall, Gwyneth Paltrow. I mean, John C. Reilly, I don't know. This is probably pretty early in his career. I don't know what. I mean,
like I said, Gwyneth Paltrow was still pretty early for her.
I guess for her too. I don't remember what
Yeah, I
when she
looked it
started to
up.
blow up.
I put notes here. This was right after 7.
Oh yeah, that was 95. Yeah, you're right.
But again, like we were talking about Samuel L. Jackson, like, and of course she didn't really blow up from 7.
No.
But then right after that, she did Emma and Sliding Doors.
Yeah.
And the thing that I remember her from is Sliding Doors, not 7. Like that, like remember seeing that film and being like, that was a good movie, and like remembering her as a performer, like, and then of course not too long after that, then you had Shakespeare in Love and
Yeah, so like late 90s, I guess, is when
she
then
really
she was
blew
like
up.
really blew up. Yeah, that
so
makes
this is
sense.
a little bit before that.
Yeah.
What was the other one? There was
Yeah, there's definitely something else we're missing.
Great Expectations. That was the other one.
Oh, yes. That was a big one.
Great Expectations and Shakespeare in Love are the other two big ones that Aaron liked both those movies a lot. So I saw them several times.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, so it was a lot then. I mean, I don't remember what all she did in the 2000s, but even going into first Iron Man, she was great.
But I was saying, like, that was like the last decade or two. The only things I remember seeing her is in Iron Man 1, 2, and 3, and I guess even one of the Avengers movies. Probably,
yeah,
I think
she's in all that.
Yeah. But like that role, like, which she does fine in those, but like it's like not much to work with there.
Yeah. Well, and to your point with that, with the type of character she has to play in this, very easily could have been just no depth to her at all. She's just sometimes prostitute,
hooker,
sometimes
that's a waitress.
Waitress,
at a casino.
Yeah, but they
very cliche.
Yes, and I mean, even back, I mean, because a lot of roles, even in the 90s, but obviously before that too, they would put an attractive woman in there just because, and there is no depth to the character at all. But like they do, even that first diner scene with her, like you get a lot into her character more, backstory and all that. And I appreciate that there's more to her in this film than could have easily just been just like, oh yeah, she's the girl in this and that's it.
All right, so let's then talk about the hotel room. So
the hotel room, not the one they're staying in, the one they go to. Okay, yes.
The pivotal scene.
Yes.
So it's like, so Sydney gets a call and you're like, what's up? And get this, which again, like the pacing of this is crazy. Like the long walk of him just looking for the room.
Oh,
like he gets in and he looks like, but it's shot well. It's interesting.
Oh, it's engaging for sure.
So you're like, and of course there's some tension there because you're like, what is he doing? We don't know yet. So
there's a big shift with which I'll get to when we get to score also there.
Okay.
With like everything before that with the score, and then it like a hard shift there, which is really cool.
So, and then at the door, the two of them like kind of like, John's like very hesitant to let him in. And then he's like, you got to agree to help. You got to, and so Sydney gets in there and of course they have this guy hostage that like some reason Clementine like went and found herself another hooker job. Like,
Yeah.
and
They
this guy
do-
didn't pay her, so then
They do. This is also really cool how they wait a pretty long time before you see the room.
Yep.
So you're wondering like
and I
what
think
happened.
even you see the guy. I think they even showed just the guy and back to then John and Sydney before you
Yes.
even realize that Clementine's there too.
Yep.
And then they reveal that she's there.
No, yeah, the way they reveal everything is really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, if the whole situation feels very abrupt, like you're like, whoa, where did this come from? Because it feels like all of a sudden that it took a hard left in the movie too, because it feels out of place for John. You wouldn't expect this from him. And then even her, like, because there's like even blood on the pillow from him like knocking the guy out. Luckily the guy's not dead, so
Yeah.
it wasn't that severe, but it's still pretty severe because I guess they called his wife and like holding him for ransom.
Mm-hmm. Which is just, I mean, Sydney even says, he's like, this is so dumb, like what you guys did in this situation, like
Yeah.
calling
'Cause
her
it
and
was
all that.
Also
like,
for $300.
which
but
even, I mean, even,
But I think because I kept thinking that, but then she says something that made me think like, oh, it's the principal thing. He had sex with me. He needs to pay me.
that was her point. Yeah.
And it's like, it wasn't the mount. It was the principal.
Yes.
That's why she was so upset. And then she felt like she got taken advantage of or something, I guess.
I think also, this is just personally what I think with her in this moment. I don't know if this is true or not, but I think also how mad she gets in the situation. I think she's also just mad that she still is being a prostitute
Right.
and has to. Well, it doesn't have to do it, but
yeah, like that she still went there after.
right. And I think she's partially
Because we
frustrated.
find out in this scene that they got married earlier that day.
Yeah. Which is actually really cool also because beforehand, I think even before you see Clementine, you see John kind of pacing the room and his hand is on his arm. And I was like, oh, he's got a wedding ring on. I'm like, what? Like, so they do a good job even with that. Like it draws your attention to that, which is cool.
But and then so then it makes more sense why she would call him to try to fix it and whatever.
Yeah.
And then of course we find out also Jimmy was involved in even like making this happen or something and like setting it up and giving John a gun. Luckily he didn't shoot him, but
Yeah, we find all that out a little later. Yeah.
yeah, as the scene progresses.
Yes.
And then eventually Sydney helps him and gets takes the handcuffs and the things, wiping fingerprints off things and then basically unties the guy and they all get out of there before the guy wakes up.
Mm-hmm.
Just let him go. And then they take off for Niagara Falls.
Quote unquote honeymoon. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess they're still on the East Coast for this.
Yeah.
It's like they never say exactly.
No, they don't. I kind of thought they were still in Vegas area in the scene.
Yeah. Well, earlier they were in Reno at one point,
Right.
which is Nevada, but not Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I
Make more sense than driving to there, or they talk about going there. Yeah, I don't know.
but then when you see him driving, it looks like a desert
Yeah.
both times.
So it looks like, yeah.
looks
out
more
that
like
way.
Nevada. It does not
Mhm.
look like
No.
right. Cause then they got the view of the mountains when they start driving. And that's definitely not East Coast mountains. So,
But also, like, when they're leaving, John is like, just like, really, dude? Like, when he's like, oh man, I've already been there. I don't want to go there. And you're like, and Sydney's just like, come on, he's like, you just need to go somewhere. Like, he was, yeah, not cooperating at all. I'm just like, dumb. It's like, it doesn't matter. You can just get out of here. Just go.
mm-hmm. So, and then just as we did like that happened, that day has passed And then Sydney gets a note. Of course, they don't show us the note, but he goes to meet someone somewhere. I thought maybe it was like John and Clementine coming back, but then
that's what you think at first. Yeah.
And then he goes in. It goes, and it's Jimmy. And of course, then Jimmy's like, "I know what you did. I know what happened in Atlantic City."
This is my last note, and this is the scene that I think is one of the best scenes in the movie, and kind of a pivotal scene that basically the entire film hinges on. Like this dialogue in the car, and then obviously what happens right afterwards, was just really strong. I really like the scene.
Yeah, no, the scene was good because also to see Sydney get scared for a moment.
Yeah, it's the first time you see him.
Like, you see break that confidence and steadiness that he had. Because at first he doesn't. He's like, huh. You think you're a hot shot or something, whatever he says, and he just like walks back to the car. But then the guy breaks the window and like has a gun in his face, and
and goes like full Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
Which is like, he's got to do that in this movie. I mean, it's what he does.
Yeah.
And he does it the best. Yeah.
But yeah, this scene is good. And he's like, I don't have 10. I got 6,000. I don't have 10,000, blah, blah, blah. And then they go back to his hotel. And anyway, and then he's kind of gets back. It's like, it's weird. The slight moment where he's not in control.
Mm-hmm.
But then by the time they're back to the hotel, he's back in control. Even though he doesn't have a gun, and the other guy's got a gun. And then he, gets him $6,000, but then it kind of definitely shifts so then you're like, oh, this guy could be a killer, or is a killer. He killed somebody. But then yet up at this point, you think so highly of him because he seems like a stand-up guy just trying to help a couple kids. And,
but this is when the reveal happens, right?
Yeah, he says, I know you killed his father.
Okay, yeah, I thought so. That was in the scene, yeah.
Yeah, in the car, and then they talk a little bit more about
right, yeah, because that's a big reason why, it is like
and
the pivotal scene.
You start to be like, oh, this is why he went to help him, because he felt bad for, yeah. And then, of course, he finds Jimmy's house and waits and gets one of Jimmy's guns and waits till he comes home. And
this is an awesome scene too. Yeah.
And he lets the hooker go.
Yeah.
Who could ID him, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was but this, and I had a note about, I'd like the way they were cutting between him, like doing the evil laugh, Jimmy doing the evil laugh while he's gambling the $6,000 away.
Oh yeah.
Or maybe not away, because he had a wad of cash on him when he came back, but like gambling to like, then Sydney sitting there in the dark waiting with a gun, to then our happy couple, just driving in the car heading to Niagara Falls or whatever. And they're just kind of, the pacing and cut between those, like, was done well. And
that was sick. Yeah.
But anyway, he comes on and then he kills him and lets the hooker go. So, and then we get our ending, which is, Sydney gets rid of the evidence, and then he is back at the diner. I think it's the same one that we were at the beginning.
Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah.
And then he looks down and
covers up his.
Notice a little bit of blood on his shirt and pulls his jacket down and puts a cigarette out or whatever. It's the end of the scene. Or end of the movie.
Yeah, it was a cool ending. The other point, which is like a little bit before that, there is a good scene where Sydney talks to John over the phone. And is it John tells Sydney that he loves him? I think, yeah.
No, Sydney says it first.
Oh, Sydney says it first.
Something you need to know.
That's right. Yeah. Okay.
And like, because I thought, is he gonna really tell him?
Yeah, I know. That's what you think.
And then he's like, "I love you like one of my own," or something like that. He says,
"Yeah, yeah." That was a good moment too.
That was right before. Then he goes and sits in the house.
Yes,
it was before that.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think this is I think I saw something about, which it might be in trivia, but I think this is like a short story or short film script that PTA wrote that he was just going to do, and then I guess ended up making it into a full feature film. But I think it was called like Coffee and Cigarettes or something. It was like the
it was.
Well, and then Sydney also was the name of the movie as well. But it was like a short.
Coffee and Cigarettes is the name of the short. He did make the short.
He did,
and that's what got him into Sundance. With the short.
Okay.
And then from there, he got the opportunity to turn it into a feature.
Nice. Okay.
At least that's what I saw somewhere.
Cool.
And then the studio is the one that made him change the title. He still thought it should be Sydney.
Yeah, Sydney's a cool name too, but
because he didn't want it to be marketed as like a
casino movie.
He wanted it to
That
be
makes
about the
sense.
characters.
Yeah.
So do you think Sydney found any redemption by the end of the film?
Maybe some, but I mean, he's doing this to kind of absolve himself, or he thinks it'll absolve him of what he did, but he's one of the few characters in this that seems like he's pretty much the same person at the start of the film by the end. Maybe, well, I guess being at least a little bit vulnerable, telling John that he loves him like a son. Besides that, I mean, you see, like, even when he kills Jimmy, he's pretty much the same demeanor as the beginning of the movie. So I don't know.
Well, he had already killed somebody. I mean, he had killed somebody else by the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe a little, but I think he also kind of comes to terms with like that. It's never going to really completely, I guess, absolve him from what he did or make up for it.
So do you feel like justice was served? There was closure?
Yeah, it was closure, yeah. I don't know if justice was served, I guess, but there was there was closure.
Okay.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think, not that I condone killing people, but
Yeah.
I think at least in what we see here, and we know it seems like Sydney's a really actually a decent guy that's trying to do the right thing with people around him that he cares about.
Yeah.
And just protect them and do what's best for them. And so that, takes them to extreme measures that, morally maybe we wouldn't agree with.
Yeah.
Killing somebody, but like, if you don't look at it like as murder and just saying, hey, they're just helping put barriers up to cut this person out of these people's lives, then we'd be like, oh yeah, that's a good thing. Cause this guy's not, like we said, even when we first meet him, you're like, oh, he's not a good influence for John.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that standpoint, I think it's the right overall idea. Just, don't go about by killing somebody.
Yeah. Yep.
But I thought I liked the ending as well. Thought it was like open-ended enough, but yet felt like closure, because you're still like, you don't really know where things are going to go from here. Does Sydney end up in jail because they find him?
Right.
But
No, I think that's a good way to end a movie, and I think he does that with a lot of his other movies too, where it still feels like an ending, but leaving it open enough to where you still want to think about it and kind of like, I don't know, ponder like what would be next, but still feels like a good, satisfying ending as well, which is not an easy thing to do for a film. So, yeah, I thought he did that pretty well in this.
Yeah.
And I'm curious how much he writes his other movies or not too. I don't know. Like, if he's pretty like set in like any of the films he directs, like he wants to fully write also or not. I don't know, but that'll be interesting to see as we keep going.
Yeah. Anything else on that before we go to...
No.
All right, talk a little about cinematography. So I think, especially in the opening, but even, but pretty much throughout the film, always having like a nice steady camera, not steady, even some of it is steady cam, but like a grounded, like it feels grounded and steady. Anything with Sidney to kind of also reinforce his, like he's like wise and in control. And, the camera never feels chaotic with him, except for in the moment with the gun later. Like that stuff's a little bit more.
Yeah, because even the scene you talked about, like the long scene of him walking up to the motel room and all that. Yeah, it's still very stable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Even though it's like going into a scene where you're like, oh, there's something happened. And you're like, it's a tension moment in the movie, but it's still very, that's a good point. Yeah. I think overall, I didn't even think about it like being shot on film, but I think just overall, like this movie, almost 30 years old, and from the beginning, I think especially once we get into the casino, I was like, man, this looks really good, especially for a mid-90s movie. Like I don't know, I was surprised how good it looked, and it looked, I don't know, maybe even more high budget than what it was.
Yeah, I would agree.
I don't know, lighting maybe is a big part of it. I don't know if you have anything to say about that.
I mean, it felt very natural lit.
Okay.
I mean, like you think about the diner scene.
True.
It's just like that natural light coming in from the windows, and they keep camera on the opposite side. And but it was like the one thing I noticed, because like normally, and we talk about like put quotes, cinematic lighting is where the light is at a 45 degree from the camera,
right,
on the opposite side of the face, so that you kind of get the dark side facing the shadow side facing the camera.
Yeah.
But like as example, the hotel scene where they're showing them when they first come in the door, and it's just John and Sidney talking, and so the camera's kind of more over towards the person on the bed, and like that's where the camera's sitting, right, and facing them. The only light should be the motivated light from like the lamp or whatever there was in the room. So then that light is actually more camera side in that moment. And that's a choice to make it more natural and motivated than to try to make it look pretty, so to speak.
Okay.
But I think it's the right choice, I think, because it makes it feel more real and natural. Because if your eye might say it's like more pleasing from an aesthetic standpoint, but then doesn't make sense logically, it can take you out of it.
Yes.
At the moment. So
very true.
Yeah, but like there's a lot of it where it feels very motivated and natural throughout, and which is more of a, is more of a more recent style than it was like an older style. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so it plays well. Yeah.
Okay.
Holds up well.
So that might be partially why I thought it looked so good for an almost 30-year-old movie. Like it looked newer than that. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Also, there's some really cool and creative camera movements I noticed in this. Not always, but there's a few scenes. I think like in the diner. I don't know. It's like I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it's like it'll be like a really quick kind of move. So instead of just cutting back and forth to the two people that are talking, sometimes they'll just do like a shift with the camera movement to the other person. I don't know. I noticed it a few times. It was just a cool angle the way they did it as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know particularly. Thing I noticed was there was a couple times where they would, like it was that, I think when we first see Jimmy and they're sitting down there. So you have like two people sitting across from, Sydney.
Yeah.
And it's like, and they kind of move from one side of the other person's head. Like they did.
Yes.
And it was like, oh, you're talking to this person here. And then it moves to the other side instead of like, yeah. So that was a little different.
Yeah. That's that's kind of the same thing I'm talking about. They just did it in a different way in the diner scene, I want to say, but, yeah, really, really cool movement, I thought. But yeah, I mean, this guy's good.
Yeah. This is, well, I didn't look at his career, like where he started, but obviously this is.
Yeah, a lot of stuff we talk about is after this. Yeah. Of like films and stuff he's done. That's really good.
Yeah.
And then even most recently, Ripley is amazing, but that's last year? 2 years ago? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. We got the casino stuff was also kind of, I was just, it was just like, interesting because I put a note that like the casino stuff was a lot less flashy than they normally try to do.
Yeah.
But again, like, I think it goes to like the comment about the title and his disagreement with the studio on the title, like them going with a more casino centric title, and he wanted to be like its character is just happens to be set there.
Yeah,
but that shows through, and like he's not trying to make the casino
he doesn't
stuff.
Want a casino movie, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, we already talked about the lighting in the hotel. I kind of skipped ahead of that, but yeah, I have my notes here. Which it was also, I put those little harsher lighting too. Besides that, it was like, again, to kind of, I think, make it feel more the intensity of the scene, of the moment. Yeah. And then I just put the final stuff where it's back him by himself again, and just kind of the solitude of him at the diner at the end. From a cinematic standpoint, also kind of shows like he's still kind of alone, like, because even though he helped these two people out that he cares about, specifically obviously John more than Clementine, like he didn't obviously know her as well, but he knew it's what John would make John happy, I think, as well. He was kind of even did all that, but then he's in the end he's there by himself.
Yep.
Dealing with his decisions that he's made. Do you have anything else on?
Nope.
All right, what about music score?
Yeah. So John Bryan was the one that we talked about because he was Step Brothers and the other guys. Michael Penn, he does a lot of PTA's movies. And that's pretty much for him, unless he's the one. No, maybe that's John Bryan that did Eternal Sunshine, which is another movie I mentioned before, which has a great score. But this movie though, it's cool because it's like the first half is like a nice retro 70s blues / jazz kind of sounding score. And then I think when he's walking up to the motel room right after he gets the call, right after Sydney gets the call. This is a really hard shift that the score gets like really dark, almost like horror score. Not completely, but it gets really dark and kind of stays that way for a lot of the rest of the movie. And it makes sense because of the shift in the tone of the movie and what happens, but really cool because, and not easy to do because it is such a big difference. But I thought it was really great though, and done well, that big shift. So
yeah, I didn't notice the shift, but I was just noticing early on the music was definitely also kind of in this ambiguous spot to coincide with what they were saying. You know, this guy, which you're like, is he nice or not? And there was like a couple scenes of him and John where you're like, Sydney and John, where I was like, is something bad gonna happen? And the music was kind of like playing with that idea too a little bit. And it was kind of like getting a little tense, but not so tense that you knew something was bad was gonna happen. Yeah. And then it would kind of like mellow out a little bit, and you were like, oh, I don't know what's here. And so they play with a lot of music there.
No, that's a good point. They do that with so even the sections where it's more of a blues jazz score, moments like that you're talking about, it does basically with the melody. The way they do that is tension with the melody, which is like changing the dissonance of the notes, is like gives you that feel. And so they do that sometimes in those moments where then it makes you a little uneasy, and then it goes back to like kind of a normal blues or jazz melody. Although jazz more specifically has a lot of that tension in general because of the sound of jazz, so it has a lot of harmonic dissonance anyway. But but that's a good point. They do that really well in this. So yeah, I don't know which one. I guess it's Michael Penn. I don't know, we'll see as we go who's the main one that does a lot of the scores for PTA. But
cool. All right, so themes and messages.
The only thing I put here is don't mess with Sydney. That's the theme and message.
Okay. I put like, no matter how nice you are, you can't escape your past.
Yeah. True.
All right, so trivia.
Yeah, I'm curious what we have for this movie.
According to Philip Baker Hall, Philip Seymour Hoffman improvised his scenes, including most of the crap scene.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Here it is.
It seemed like Samuel L. Jackson too at the end, where he was, right after he got all the money and was gambling. Yeah.
PTA originally wanted the title Sydney. We talked about this already. This enraged Anderson, and through many talks and deals, he convinced the studio to let him release his cut. So he's got a different cut, but with the new title, Hard 8. Oh, wait. So let me read this bit because I skipped it. Original title, and he had basically no control over, much less the final cut, like he's had on his other features since. Reicher Entertainment recut the film and titled it Hard 8. This enraged Anderson. Through many talks and deals, he convinced the studio to let him release his cut, but with the new title Hard 8. Anderson later said his experience taught him that doing your best to make the best possible movie was only half the job, and being a director, the other half was dealing with all the egos.
Yeah. So I wonder what I mean, is this his cut, the one we watched, or not? I don't know.
During the confrontation with Jimmy and Sydney, Jimmy mentions that he knows Sydney's friend Floyd Gondali and Jimmy Gator. In PTA's next movie, Boogie Nights, Philip Baker Hall plays Floyd Gondali. In Anderson's follow-up to Boogie Nights, Magnolia, Philip Baker Hall plays Jimmy Gator.
Nice. Cool. I didn't remember he was in both those movies also. That's great. I wanted to mention with someone like, especially PTA, like very like artsy person, or very like vision focus. Again, like we compare him, I think, the most to Tarantino, but that makes sense that he would, and that's the constant struggle you have with like when you have a studio release your film is like how much you get to keep your original vision and how much they want to change of it. And again, but then as we go then and he gets more popular, then they don't mess with him at all anymore. At that point, then he has full creative control, which is always good when that happens. Then he can just do whatever he wants.
Says PTA on the DVD commentary admitted to successfully pulling off the casino rate card trick shown in the film several times. So I guess it's a real trick that works.
All right.
Maybe it's something we don't know about the rate card.
Yeah, I wasn't familiar with that anyway, so I don't know.
I have to look up an explanation.
Yeah.
PTA has rarely commented on the movie since its release, and it remains his least known film.
Yeah, that makes sense, but it's especially for a first film, it's done really well.
Says the producer, Robert Jones, saw PTA's first cut was 2.5 hours, and he demanded, "We need to cut this down." Anderson refused, so Jones fired him and his editor and started working on a shorter version. When the film was accepted for the Cannes Festival, did so on the provision that they received the director's cut, which Anderson completed the day before the festival.
Okay. Well, we definitely didn't see the 2.5 hour version of this.
No.
Oh, if it's released though, I'd be interested in that though. Be cool to see that version.
After PTA showed the short film Cigarettes and Coffee at the 93 Sundance Festival, he was invited to the Sundance Filmmaker Lab. There he shot a few scenes from this movie. John and Sydney in the diner, John calling Sydney from a payphone, and the motel sequence with the hostage, and Jimmy threatening Sydney in the car. John C. Reilly and Philip Baker Hall played the roles they had in the film, while Maria Kelly played this Clementine, played in the movie by Gwyneth Paltrow. And Courtney B. Vance played Jimmy.
Oh, nice. That's interesting that's like the first scenes he shot, like after doing the short.
Says he also wanted the film to open with just the production company info, a P.T. Anderson picture, and the title, no credits. But to do this, everyone had to agree, and everyone did except for the producer, Robert Jones. So they had to have normal credits.
Man. Seems like this producer was a nuisance to him. A lot of pushback.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, final thoughts.
It was good.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Especially for first film. Not bad. Hats off to you, P.T. Anderson.
Yeah.
I think you might have a career.
Yeah.
Future career here.
Yeah. I think he might be a pretty good director.
And writer. If he ends up writing.
Yeah, if he's I'm curious how much
but
he
even
writes
this one,
too.
I mean, that's the writing is so crucial in the dialogue and all this whole thing. But yeah, it was good. So if you have not seen it, watch it because it was good.
I'm curious also, because I think there's a couple of his movies I still haven't seen. But I'm curious if he has any duds. Like, I'm wondering if he's got like a perfect run like Tarantino. Also a similar amount of films. Yeah. I wonder if it's just all heaters from him or not.
I don't know. Let us know your thoughts if you've seen this, or if you haven't, go watch it and then let us know what you think. Yes. And you can do that by emailing us at feedback@screentimepod.com or leave a comment or DM us. And next week we will be discussing Boogie Nights, the second film. This is one we both have seen.
Yes.
But it's been a really long time since I've watched this film.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was noticing like any of the films I have seen of his, none of them I've seen like probably in 20 years. So
wow. Okay.
maybe if it was less than 20 years old, but
I saw Boogie Nights like a couple years ago, I want to say.
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it in forever.
It's so fun.
Yeah. I remember I like it. I just,
Yeah.
So anyway, but if you please, we appreciate all you that watch and listen, and tell your friends, like and subscribe, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, and or follow us on the socials, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook.
Yeah. Tell your friends and your
enemies. Tell your enemies.
And your enemies. Yeah. Get everyone to listen. All your film lovers, especially these movies
and haters
and film haters.
We want them all,
and maybe they'll become a film lover from. I don't know. I would like to get all the pretentious film people to listen also, because I'm sure there's a lot of them that are
so they can like
high up
send
on
us all kinds
PTA.
of critical emails.
Well, that'll happen regardless. It's all right.
All right. Well, we appreciate all you guys, and we'll catch you guys next time.